Welcome back to another edition of Just Some More Stupid. Today's special guest is Ilhan Omar. Now hold on to your hijab. This is going to be an unprecedented level of stupid. Let's get back to the show.
Ms. Patty, as a matter of law and according to ICE's own policy, ICE could not arrest and detain U.S. citizens. Did they give you a reason for your legal detention, and do you remember what the actual agency that made the arrest was?
They said when they arrested us that they were arresting us for obstructing a federal operation, but...
And do you know to this day if you've been charged with anything?
No, to this day I've not been charged with anything. There were no cars in front of them. We weren't blocking them in. We weren't at an active ICE raid. They also never identified themselves as ICE. They didn't say that on their uniforms. So,
do you recall if you were fully booked? Like fingerprinted, photos taken?
We were not fingerprinted. Our photos were not taken. No.
So just held hostage and then released, essentially?
Yeah.
Okay. And Mr. Mayo, is there any constitutional way in which these arrests are legally possible by ICE and border agents when it comes to legal residents and citizens?
Well, I mean, for any arrest, I mean, someone can be arrested for unlawful activity. But I mean, what we are seeing is far from.
So that would be a roundabout, don't look at me, look at them answer. Yes. The answer is yes. And states should use their law enforcement, as well as local police departments as well, to back up ICE. They should be at the scene to make sure that these citizens don't step out of line and break the law and endanger the lives of these federal agents or endanger communities as a whole. But let's hear this retard's answer.
Far from that, at the sites of some of this activity with observers and protesters, these are chaotic scenes, but we are seeing actions from the government that are escalating, that are violent, that are not disciplined, that are not using any rules of proper rules.
Yeah, no, we're not. No, we're not. So this man is a liar. Let's just fast forward.
Correct. I was put into ankle shackles.
Being here today, I want to thank Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal for co-hosting this field hearing to raise the alarm about Donald Trump's unlawful, aggressive, and authoritarian actions in the Twin Cities. I also want to thank my colleagues who came from across the country and testifiers for joining us here in Minnesota. What we are witnessing right now is unprecedented. There is no modern precedent for this level of federal overreach, violence, lawlessness carried out in the name of immigration enforcement. This is not routine enforcement. This is not about public safety. This is not even about immigration. This is about political retribution. The president said it himself this week. It is increasingly clear that the entire purpose of these actions is to provoke chaos and fear in order to justify invoking the Insurrection Act and expand the president's ability to rain terror upon American cities who do not vote for him. That is the context in which Renee Nicole Good occurred. This administration has unleashed primarily paramilitary force into our neighborhoods, terrorizing families, escalating enforcement, and now killing a U.S. citizen in our state. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Our office has received numerous reports of deeply questionable arrests, individuals detained without explanation, without warrants, without access to counsel, and in many cases without any discernible lawful basis at all. We have heard of agents pushing people because they look Latino or Somali, forcing them into car accidents where they smash windows, cut seatbelts, carry people away. Abandoned cars with broken windows have become a normal sight of daily life in the Twin Cities. Trump claims Operation Metro Surge is about targeting criminals. The reality is even more disturbing. They have deliberately blurred the lines between public safety threats, legal immigration, and U.S. citizens, creating an enforcement campaign.
I'm sorry, what blurred lines regarding immigration? I'm pretty sure that the lines have been clarified. These are very, very clear lines. You are either an illegal alien, criminal migrant, or you are a legal citizen. And by the way, legal citizens can get arrested in the United States of America as well. So keep that in mind, Ilhan, Omar.
So indiscriminate that citizens are being swept up, arrested, and carried away to detention facilities. In Minnesota, dozens of U.S. citizens have been taken into custody and released hours later. We have yet to see charges materialize because in nearly all instances, no federal charges are possible. Similarly, this administration has worked to reduce any semblance of due process, sending people out of state, specifically to prevent access to legal representation, separating them from their family, counsel, and open removal processes for refugees with no legitimate legal basis. This is the behavior of paramilitary force operating outside the bounds of law. This administration has been entirely unresponsive. Families cannot locate loved ones, attorneys cannot find their clients, members of Congress can't get answers about where people are being held. In North Minneapolis, doors have been battered down without judicial warrants, as ICE has conducted door-to-door operations with guns drawn, actions that are neither legal or precedented. People have been indiscriminately shoved in the streets, pushed.
It's true, it is quite unprecedented, although during the Obama administration, it was very precedented. So I guess maybe it's just unprecedented in regards to the Biden administration, who opened the borders and used them as a pipeline for child trafficking.
Into oncoming traffic and nearly hit by buses. Flashbangs, pepper balls, and chemical irritants are used without a second thought. This is not the America we want. This is not the Minnesota we deserve, and we will fight back. Thank you. The one place where we thought we would never experience this is the U.S. goddamn states.
Whoa, you nasty-mouthed woman. Total Jezebel. Now let's see how this more stupid blasphemer handles some questions.
Next question.
Representative Omar, Representative Morrison, two questions. One, I've spoken to some people that were detained here in Minnesota that are undocumented that are now in an El Paso facility, and they say that someone told them that no Minnesota detainees are allowed visitors. I'm wondering if you guys have spoken with anyone that has been detained there, and if you're working to try to get them to be able to get visitors. And then my second question is, we have seen a protest be peaceful, but MPD did say on Wednesday night that there were rocks and ice thrown at officers as well as fireworks. I'm wondering if you have anything to say to those protesters who were doing unlawful acts.
I'm going to take the first one. What? So last night at dinner, and in the last few weeks, we've certainly heard in cases where people have been picked up, many of them who had lawful status in this country. We've heard a Sudanese immigrant who went in for his scheduled green card.
She's a terrible public speaker. One of the first things that you learn when you take a speech class is to stop saying, every other word. Has she not gotten the proper training? Let's get her some of this welfare training for immigrants and teach them how to speak English properly. We do that? Or maybe she got her training at one of those leering centers. Get back to it.
And was told that he wouldn't have his interview and was picked up, sent to Texas. Our office has...
Although it is a really good strategy when you're making stuff up off the cuff, gives you more time, let's just say. It buys you time. Kind of like Amber Heard during her testimony against Johnny Depp. When she was eating figs or whatever it was the entire time on the witness stand, gave her the opportunity to stop and chew and think about what lie she was going to perpetrate next. So maybe that's the tactic old Ilhan's using here, huh? I don't know. What do you think? Let's get back to it. Just some more stupid.
Tried to get information about his
whereabouts. I know that Senator Tina Smith's office has tried to get information on his whereabouts. We also know that his family has tried to have lawyers get information on his whereabouts.
We also know about a grandmother who was picked up as she was driving her grandchildren. The grandchildren were left in the car without a driver as the grandmother was taken away. We still don't have information. So
I can go on and on in many of these cases, and I still have not heard a single case in this search where someone who was a criminal, undocumented, being picked up from the street. Many of the cases that DHS, at least to my knowledge, and I would love for them to provide us the dates in which they were picked up and from where in our communities, or what operation produced some of these people that they are putting forth, saying, you know, they've taken off the hardened criminals off the street, because it is my understanding that many of those people were already adjudicated, already serving prison sentences, and many of them are still serving their prison sentences in many of the prisons throughout the state, and they're just taking their mugshots and submitting the charges of what they've been convicted of as a proof of the people that they're picking up. So I would love more accuracy of information, as they say they're the most transparent administration.
Which is the biggest lie told on American soil, I believe. It is the least transparent. It is the most corrupt.
I don't know. I think the White House has them beat. I think CPS has them beat. I think the state of Minnesota has them beat. I think you give ICE a little bit more credit than they deserve, lady. Let's get back to some more stupid.
It is the one administration I have seen lie to us, even though we have an accurate documentation of their lies, even if we are witnesses to the lies. And then I would say, lastly, to your point, you know, this again is one of those operations where they say they were carrying out an operation, and then we hear from Minneapolis Police Department say they just raced a random guy in the middle of the street into his home, and then ended up shooting him. And there, you know, was someone who was pregnant, and then there was tear gassing being thrown into a car where a man talked about.
I believe she's talking about the man who attacked an ICE agent with a shovel, and then two other men who joined in the beating before the ICE agent drew his weapon and fired, at which time they scattered like cockroaches.
Having 6 of his children in the car, where a 6-month-old was tear gassed and was hospitalized. So when we think about where the...
I guess that's a really good case to comply. If you have children with you and you're wanted by the law, it would be in the best interest of those children for you to comply. Lesson learned, I hope, friends.
Chaos is coming from, who is creating these violent environments, those are ICE agents. That's Border Patrol. If they carried out their operations in the way in which they used to carry them out,
which was not carrying them out. Let's be very clear, under the Biden administration, the way ICE was forced to carry out their operations was to stand by, pull back, and watch it all unfold before their eyes. Watch the criminality unfold. So yes, this is a little bit different than what these criminals are used to. I guess it's a little confusing for her. Let's get back to more stupid.
knew where they were going in. They would give a heads up to law enforcement, local law enforcement, that that's where they were going. There was an understanding of who they were looking for, and instead of
No, that's not true, because we know that these are sanctuary states and sanctuary cities, and that means that law enforcement does not cooperate with ICE. So it looks like we caught her in another stupid lie.
forming a whole neighborhood, jumping out of cars, running up on people with massive guns drawn, maybe we wouldn't have any of this. And I do hope that the administration and Kristi Noem understand that de-escalation comes from them removing this occupation. It comes from them taking ICE off our streets, and it comes from them
Stop deporting illegal aliens, and we will stop our insurrection. I think that's what she's trying to say in a really weird roundabout way.
This rhetoric of blanket saying that Minnesota is full of criminals, because Minnesota is not full of criminals. Minnesota is an incredible state that welcomes people, that is generous, but it's also a state where lawful people reside. I would.
And let's make note that Ilhan Omar completely ignored the follow-up question, and that is in regards to the protesters who are becoming violent, throwing rocks, ice, shooting fireworks, and other tactics against federal agents. Well, she just skirted back real quick so she didn't have to answer that important question. I'll tell you what, though, I know the answer. She likes it. She encourages the violence. That's what it's all about. The more American citizens die, the better it is for Ilhan, Waltz, Jacob Frey, and the rest of these criminals. Unfortunately, I don't have the patience for this more stupid, but I do hear Seattle has a seriously stupid situation going on there. So stay tuned for a Seattle edition of Just More Stupid. Wow, that was a lot of stupid. I ran out of glitter.